was supposed to be a routine flight, just a 2-hour trip from New York to Miami. I had flown dozens of times before. I thought I knew what to expect. The plane took off at dusk. The sky outside was a deep orange, fading to dark purple. Passengers were chatting softly, reading, scrolling through their phones. I sank into my seat, pulled out my headphones, and tried to relax. Then the first bump hit. Nothing unusual, just a little turbulence. People laughed nervously. The pilot's voice came over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing some light turbulence. Please remain seated." I tried to shrug it off, but then it got worse. Much worse. The plane shook violently. A loud bang echoed through the cabin. The lights flickered. I gripped the armrests, heart racing. People screamed, not loud, terrified screams. More like sudden, instinctual cries. Something deep in your chest that tells you this isn't normal. The flight attendants were shouting instructions. "Remain calm. Stay in your seats." Their voices trembled. I could see it. I could feel it. The plane lurched again. I saw a man across the aisle hit the ceiling compartment. Hard. Plastic bags fell. Luggage tumbled out. The smell of fear, sweat, panic filled the cabin. The captain's voice came again, distorted, almost robotic. "Ladies and gentlemen, hold on. Brace for severe turbulence." The plane dropped suddenly. My stomach felt like it had left my body. People screamed again, some crying, some whispering prayers. I grabbed my phone, thinking I'd record it. But my hands shook too much. Then it happened. A deafening roar from outside. The plane shuddered as if something massive had struck it. The overhead bins flew open. A woman next to me hit her head. Blood. Everything was chaos and screaming and banging, terror. I looked out the window. Lightning flashed. Clouds churned like a storm from another world. I could see, for a fraction of a second, the outline of a huge shadow, just outside. A plane? A bird? Something else? I didn't know. The oxygen masks dropped. People scrambled. Some didn't even make it. The man across from me, he lost his footing, fell, hit the floor. The plane's engines groaned, a deep, unnatural sound vibrating through every bone in my body. I could feel the metal bending, twisting. The flight attendants tried to move through the aisle. Impossible. They were tossed around like rag dolls. Time stopped. Moments stretched into eternity, and then silence. A sudden calm, like the world itself had exhaled. The plane was still shaking, but not as violently. The captain's voice returned, but faint, distant. We've lost one engine, but we're stabilizing. Please remain calm." We were over the ocean, no land in sight. I looked around, faces pale, eyes wide, some still crying. People whispered prayers, names, promises to loved ones. The turbulence didn't stop. It never really stopped. Every few minutes, a violent shake, a lurch. And each time, you felt closer to the edge. Hours felt like days. The flight attendants moved among us, checking injuries, trying to comfort, trying to survive. But you could see it in their eyes, the unspoken truth. We were at the mercy of something, beyond our control. Finally, we began to descend. The lights of Miami appeared below, tiny, flickering, fragile. The plane touched down, but hard, very hard. People screamed again, not from fear, from relief. We rolled to a stop. The engines sputtered. Emergency vehicles surrounded the runway. We had survived, somehow, but no one would speak of the shadow. No one would mention the roar. We all knew. Some things on that flight were not meant to be understood. I left the airport in silence. The night air felt unreal, and somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew I had looked death in the face, and it had smiled back.
It started like any other flight. Early morning, quiet, smooth. I had a window seat. Outside, the sky was pale blue. Sunlight spilled across the clouds. Peaceful. The flight attendants were cheerful. "Good morning, folks. Welcome aboard." Their smiles were practiced, polite, warm. I put on my headphones. Tried to relax. The plane lifted off, smooth, effortless. I watched the clouds stretch beneath me. Endless, soft. Everything felt normal. Until the passenger in 14C caught my eye. He was alone. Tall, thin, dressed in a gray suit. He didn't speak, didn't move, just stared straight ahead. Something about him felt wrong. I couldn't look away. The flight moved along, uneventful. People read, slept, scrolled their phones. I tried to ignore him, but I couldn't. Lunch service began. The attendant approached him. "Would you like chicken or pasta?" He didn't answer. She frowned, checked his seatbelt. Still fastened. Everything seemed normal. Hours passed. I looked away for a moment. Then, I blinked, and he was gone. Just gone. No seatbelt. No belongings. The space was empty. I thought, maybe he got up, went to the bathroom, but the bathroom was empty. The aisle, empty. No one had seen him. I whispered to the passenger beside me, "Did you see that man?" They shook their head. "Which man?" "The gray-suited man. The one who was here." "Oh, I didn't notice anyone." The plane felt different after that. The air, heavier. The hum of the engines, too loud, too alive. I could feel it. A presence. Other passengers began noticing things, a shadow flickering in the aisle where no one was standing. Cold spots, sudden chills, goosebumps racing across skin. Some whispered, "Did anyone else see him?" The crew ignored the questions. Smiles, polite, nods, empty. They moved down the aisle as if nothing was wrong. Then, the lights dimmed. Softly at first, then completely. Emergency lights flickered on, red, eerie. The plane shuddered. I gripped the armrest, heart pounding, chest tight. A voice, just for a moment, whispered my name. Not over the intercom, inside my head. I froze. The passengers around me, unaware, silent, oblivious. The shadow appeared again. Tall, gray, featureless, floating, unmoving. It glided past the rows of seats. No one could see it except me. Panic rose, but I couldn't scream. My throat locked, my body frozen. All I could do was watch. Minutes stretched, hours, maybe. Then the lights returned. Normal sounds, normal chatter, coffee carts, the scent of reheated meals. I blinked. The shadow was gone. The man never returned. I asked the flight attendants. No one had seen anything. No cameras had captured him. The crew insisted there was no missing passenger. I left the plane in Miami, shaken. I checked the passenger manifest. Every seat accounted for. Every passenger present. Except 14C. No one had ever been sitting there. I never flew again. For a long time. But at night, sometimes, I feel him. That gaze. Cold. Watching. Waiting. And I wonder, was he real? Or had I been chosen?
The flight was late, not much, just an hour, from Chicago to Denver. I was tired, but awake enough to notice small details. I sat by the window. Aisle seats were empty. The cabin was half full. Quiet, too quiet. The plane took off smoothly. Engines hummed, steady, reassuring. Passengers settled in. A man across the aisle opened a laptop. A child beside him fussed with a tablet.
I tried to relax. Headphones on, playlist ready. Outside, clouds drifted lazily. The sun was setting, golden light bathing the cabin. Then, the engine hiccuped. A small jolt. A ripple of unease passed through the passengers. The flight attendant smiled. Calm. Just a little turbulence, one said. But the plane didn't stop shaking. It got worse. Much worse. A loud bang. From behind. Metal groaned. The plane shuddered violently. People screamed. Some hit the ceiling. Plastic fell from the bins. Then, the oxygen masks dropped. Suddenly, without warning. Red and white cords dangling. A glowing reminder of fear. I grabbed one, pulled it down, secured it over my face. The smell of rubber, warm air. Panic. Passengers struggled. The man across the aisle fumbled with his mask. The child beside him screamed. Flight attendants moved quickly, but their faces were pale, strained. The plane lurched again, hard. I was thrown forward, hitting the seat in front of me. A woman screamed, blood on her forehead. I could hear it, the sickening groan of metal, twisting, bending. Then, a shadow passed over the cabin, not outside, inside. A figure, tall, indistinct, moving against the lights. No one else seemed to notice. The engines faltered. A low roar. Unnatural. People whispered, prayed, panicked. I could see fear etched on every face. The flight attendants tried to calm everyone, but they were tense, fearful, just like us. Time slowed. Minutes became hours. The plane seemed alive, breathing, unpredictable. Another bang, louder this time. The aisle was chaos. Luggage tumbling, seats tilting, people falling. The man across from me, gone, vanished. The cabin lights flickered. The oxygen masks swung, shadows dancing across the ceiling. I could feel something, heavy, malevolent, pressing down, inside the plane, inside me. Finally, the plane stabilized. The pilot's voice came over, calm, but distant. "We have regained control. Please remain seated." We descended slowly. The city lights of Denver appeared, fragile, flickering. The plane landed, hard, but safe. Emergency crews were waiting. Paramedics rushed in. Some passengers were injured. Some missing. I left the plane, shaken. I checked the news later. No mechanical failure reported. No missing passengers officially noted. But I knew. Something had been on that flight. Something not meant to be seen. I would never forget the shadows, the screams, the oxygen masks swinging, red cords like veins in the air. I never flew again, not willingly. And sometimes, at night, I can hear the groan of metal and the whisper of something waiting, just above the clouds.